Welcome back to another tabletop review. Today we'll look at the Ruger Mark III Standard Model 22 pistol. In the world of 22 caliber target shooting and plinking, the Ruger pistols were the most successful 22 caliber semi-automatic handguns for decades after World War II. Let's make sure this one is cleared. Everyone needs a plinking handgun. Back in the day, I had a 22 revolver, which was nice enough, but the Ruger Mark III had a classic look and offered a 10-round magazine with accuracy better than my old 22 revolver for under $300. The gun shop even threw in a couple of hundred rounds of ammo at the time. My kids were young and I was enjoying taking them to the range. I thought this would be a gun they would enjoy. And I was right. My daughter loved this gun, and she was very good with it. That seems like a long time ago, but to this day, this old Mark III remains one of her preferred range guns. The Ruger Mark pistols itself have evolved and its competition continues to grow. Still, it's common to see used Mark IIIs for sale in gun stores just about everywhere. So with so many options out there, it's fair to ask, are these old Mark IIIs still worth consideration today? My Mark III came in a fairly nice hard plastic case. It came with two 10-round magazines, came with a manual, came with two keys for the internal lock on the gun, and it came with an additional lock for the gun. And of course it came with the spent shell. For many, the name Ruger is associated with the affordable and reliable Ruger 10/22 carbine rifle. That makes sense given that many of us grew up in families that had one of these popular rifles. The Ruger 10/22 has been in continuous production since 1964, and I've even seen new ones on sale today for as low as $230. But when you hear someone say that it was the 10/22 rifle that launched the Ruger company to become the company it is today, they'd be wrong. The story behind the Sturm Ruger company begins with William B. Ruger and the Ruger Standard Model 22 pistol. It is said that William Ruger copied the design of the pistol from the Japanese Nambu Type 14 pistol that had been given by a returning Marine just after World War II. And it didn't hurt marketing efforts that Ruger's design of the new Ruger Standard, as it was called, also resembled the coveted German Luger P08. With backing from Alex Sturm, the Sturm Ruger Company was formed and production of the standard model Ruger began in 1949. The rest is history. It was the successful design of the Ruger Standard in economical engineering as well as sound business practices which allowed the Sturm Ruger Company to be one of the most successful United States manufacturers. Although there were many 22 rimfire pistols entering the market after the war, Ruger was able to dominate the market with its attractive, reliable, accurate, and affordable standard model. The Standard, in its first version, the Mark I, was produced for 33 years. Mechanically improved models of the original Standard received the designation of MK, referred to as Mark. So there was the MK1 or Mark I in 1950, and then the Mark II in 1982, which also had a long run. Then the Mark III in 2004, and the Mark IV model most recently in 2016. These models included a bunch of different options, including lightweight and heavy tapered barrel lengths from 4.75 inches to almost 7 inches, and target bull barrel lengths of 4 inches to 10 inches. All of the Ruger pistols with heavy tapered or bull barrels came with target adjustable sights. Beginning with the Mark II, stainless steel versions of the Ruger were also made available. So how popular has the Ruger pistol been? Well, between 1982 and 2005 alone, over 3 million of the Mark IIs were produced. Since Ruger has produced millions of these 22 pistols in numerous variations, it's probably the most well-known and popular 22 pistol ever made, and that's not an exaggeration. Speaking of variations, what makes the Mark III different from the Mark II? The Mark III changes included the addition of a visible loaded chamber indicator on the left side, and it was the first ever for a 22 pistol. Mag release was moved from the bottom of the grip to behind the trigger guard. If your Mark III pistol had adjustable sights, they also were drilled and tapped for a Weaver style scope base which came with the pistol. Mark III's have a magazine disconnect which prevents the pistol from being fired with the magazine removed from the pistol. Not everyone likes that, and there are kits to correct that. A keyed internal safety was added, and again, not everybody thought that was necessary. The Mark III has a shorter tapered bolt ears, and the Model 3 has a smoothly contoured ejector port profile. The Mark III came in 3 basic models. The standard, like this one, with its tapered 4.75 or 6-inch blue barreled and fixed sights. The Target model in blue or stainless steel finish with bold 4.5-inch barrel and adjustable sights. And the all stainless steel Hunter model with 4.5, 5.5 or 6.975-inch fluted bull barrel, fiber optic sight, and adjustable rear sight. The Mark IV replaced the Mark III in 2016. Even so, the basic looks of the Ruger 22 pistol haven't changed much at all since 1949. Specifications on the standard model blued 6-inch steel barrel and frame 22 pistol include an overall length of 10 inches. This one was produced in 2009. Height is 5 3/8 inches. Width is 1 1/4 inches. Unloaded weight is 35.55 ounces. It has fixed rear sights. A loaded chamber indicator is here. Safety is here. Plastic grips on this model. Mag release is here. Magazines are 10 rounds. As for cons, I've heard people complain about the Mark III's magazine disconnect, but to be honest, I see this as a target plinking gun, so that doesn't really bother me all that much. The only really big issue I have with this gun is its disassembly and reassembly procedures, which were improved with the new Mark IV model. But in perspective, when I compare cleaning this gun to my Browning Buckmark 22 or my Smith & Wesson Model 22A target gun, I really don't see the Mark III as all that bad. Okay, it is what leads people to trade these guns in for easier maintenance, more up-to-date 22 pistols with higher capacities, like the new suppressor-ready Taurus TX22. That's only for about $250, and there's even the Beretta M922, which is really excellent 22 for about $350. I mean, I get that. Heck, if you like this blowback tubular bolt design and price is an issue, you can probably pick up a used Beretta Neos for about $150. The Neos is an underappreciated, great little 22 pistol, and they are a piece of cake to maintain compared to the Mark III. So why even consider a Mark III? As for the pros about this gun, it is a classic. The Ruger is well made, rugged, reliable, and a solid performer. Many of these guns have been around for many, many years and have had thousands and thousands of rounds through them. Its blowback design and solid weight due to its all-steel construction reduces recoil and muzzle rise to next to nothing. So, as expected, it has great accuracy. One thing I've noticed about my Mark III, it isn't very picky about ammo either. I mean, I've put a lot of pretty cheap junk ammo through this gun over the past decades, and rarely have I ever had any problems with it. And I think Ruger really got the design of this gun right. Even today it still looks good, and it feels good in the hand. The grips are highly textured, the balance is great, even the trigger is pretty decent. Now when you add the general historic popularity of the Ruger, it shouldn't be a surprise to hear that the Ruger Mark III has a reputation for holding its value. Although there are bargains out there, used Mark IIIs have been sold for just about what they were sold for new. As for disassembly and reassembly of the Ruger Mark III, the first thing you're going to need is a paper clip. Next, you may need a hammer, and you may need a wooden dowel, and probably some patience. My advice is follow the steps exactly. For disassembly, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that the gun is cleared again. Then with the magazine in, safety off. We're going to pull the trigger. Then we're going to flip the gun over here to look at this lever back here in the grip. We're going to pull that lever out using the paper clip. My paper clip is a little bent out of shape here, but I'm just going to catch on to the end of that lever, pull it out like that. Once it's out, I can then swing the spring housing out, and I can pull down on the spring housing. We're going to be pulling this pin that runs through the bolt and is attached down here on the spring housing. We're just going to pull this down, and sometimes that bolt pin doesn't want to come out of its housing here, and that's where you might need the hammer and a wood dowel to basically drive that pin out. If it's a new gun, that's not uncommon. Next, we're going to remove the bolt. If the bolt won't come out, if it seems stuck halfway, that's because there's a little wire unit here by the hammer that's in the way. So I'm going to flip the hammer up, and then I'm going to pull up that little wire piece so you can see it, maybe right here. And once I pull that up like that, then the bolt comes out. That's one thing that sometimes becomes a problem. With the bolt out, I now can remove the magazine. And if you look back at the barrel and its alignment to the frame, right back in this area, you can get an idea of how the barrel fits on the frame. We're going to remove the barrel. It's going to go this direction, and we need to remember a little bit what that looks like, because when we replace the barrel, we want to make sure that we get it back in about that position. This is where the hammer comes into play. Disassembled. You could go one more step and remove the spring from the bolt. It's fairly simple, it just lifts off. Reassembly would just be the reverse. We'll replace the spring on the bolt here. On the frame, we're going to make sure that the hammer is down. On the frame, you'll see a square peg here. On the barrel, we'll see a square hole. We're going to line that hole and the square together, and then again use the hammer to sort of just bring that barrel assembly back onto the frame. And again, we're going to try to line it up what it was like before we disassembled it. It looks pretty good. One way to check to see that you have the barrel properly seated on the frame is, before you put the bolt back in, is to just work that pin back up into the frame and the barrel, and just see that it goes up there fairly smoothly on its own. If it works up there fairly smoothly, then it'll probably work when you put the bolt back in. Next, we're going to replace the bolt. Spring side up. It's gone in part way and it seems to want to stick, and that's because the hammer has flipped up. We need to make sure that it's down. So now it's back down. It should go in. Goes in part way, doesn't go all the way in. That's not uncommon. Again, that can be remedied by just pulling down on the bolt release here. So we'll pull that down, and there the bolt goes all the way in. With the bolt returned, we now can return the magazine. We're going to point the gun down, pull the trigger, and now we're going to reinsert the mainspring bolt stop pin. If it's a new gun, this bolt pin can be quite a task trying to work it back up into the back of this barrel. Okay, there it is. With it back up into the barrel, we're now going to point the gun up, and we're going to pull the trigger, and now we should be able to fold the spring housing back into the grip. And when we do that, Now we can return that little lever, and that should lock the unit in place, and we can check the gun for function. Seems to be working just fine. If it's not right, if you run into trouble, best thing to do is to stop, go back, repeat the steps carefully, and eventually you'll get it. The suggested retail price on the Ruger Mark III was about $360, but I was able to get this one for about $290. The Target model was listed at about $430 and the Hunter model for about $638. As mentioned earlier, used Mark IIIs appear to have held their value very well, so expect to pay close to $300 for a used one in good condition, but keep an eye out because occasionally I've seen used ones on sale for under $200. You can also probably find a variation of one of the new Mark IVs for between $370 and $550, so Ruger has done a good job of keeping their prices fairly level. Well, to wrap up, while the Ruger Mark III and its variations have enjoyed a pretty good dominance of the .22 pistol market, perhaps its day has passed. I mean, let's be honest, there are a lot of choices out there when it comes to the .22 handguns. As for the Mark III, with its noticeable disassembly challenges, certainly there are better choices out there. Sometimes saying something is a classic is just another way of saying it's out of date. But looking at the Mark III, I'm not so sure that's that simple. There is something about the lines that are very appealing, and there's no mistaking the good feel this gun has in the hand, and its performance is undeniable. You know, my daughter and I have shot this gun for many years. It remains her favorite range gun. There's just something more to it. I don't even mind cleaning it. I think the Ruger Mark .22 pistol is more than a classic. The way I see it, to own a Ruger Mark is to own a piece of history. After all, it is the gun that launched the highly successful American company, and it's the gun that many of us use to introduce our kids to the sport of shooting. I think I'll hang on to this one. Any weapon you carry is better than one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.